Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Fire of Hades, thank you for the gifted sub, my friend. Thank you. Give me just a sec, gang. We're gonna do. I'm gonna explain in more depth in a minute here. What's going on? But I've placed it literally everywhere, and I'm gonna continue to say it. There is a potential for spoilers. There's a potential for spoilers. I am not encouraging them or allowing them in chat. I will not be bringing things up on purpose. And it's not gonna be like, hey, we're gonna just talk about stuff. I have a list of things I gotta work through, and I would love to have that happen along with everyone here. So, first of all, hello D-Swag, Mikey, Donning Eclipses, Dr. Tokeno, and Inferno Black. Hello, friends. But anyways, let me pop over to here so that you guys can see what we're gonna be doing today. So I'm gonna give this a couple minutes before we get started. Right now we're just gonna kind of chill and hang out and converse for a minute. I had many ideas. I know what I want to do. I don't know when or how or in what facet, but I have a thing that I have come up with an idea for, and I'm being intentionally vague on purpose so that if anybody clicks on this, they have a chance to decide that they don't want to know anything for any reason at all. Elder Squirtle, it's not going to be anything related to current campaign right now in here. I'm not doing that. I'm not throwing that at you guys. This is a potential thing going forward that may or may not affect some things, but I will have to talk about the lore of my D&D world in order to explain it to you guys. So if that happens and you want to know nothing about what's going on in Boarding Party other than what you've been shown and told, you have been warned. You've been warned. Some folks like to just be along for the ride. Other folks really want to know stuff that's going on. For any of the players, I don't know if any of them are going to pop in here. Totally fine. You guys can absolutely be around. Let's see. Yes, it should be in the title, but funny story, there's a character limit to tweets. I'm going to call this a potential spoiler warning for lore, and we'll just potential spoiler warning. If you don't want anything spoiled for you, do not click. You don't want any part of this. Fire Hades, it's not going to be a lore dump. It is not a lore dump in any way. It is the creation of said lore, because there is a gap in my world building that is becoming more interesting to me the longer the game goes on. So again, I'm being intentionally vague still for a minute here. We're just gonna kind of hold tight for a sec. Hello Aurelio. Hello Minnie. And I don't know how long the stream's gonna be. I don't know if there's gonna be more of these. I don't know. This is kind of impromptu. I had like a lightning struck yesterday, and I figured out what I want to do over dinner with my dad, aka Refasul from back in the day. Big bolt of inspiration. We talked through some things, and he's really, really good at asking questions I had not thought of answers to. So let's see. We've been going for 6-ish minutes. I've kept you guys on the chain links long enough. We are today going to be discussing the War of the Architects. This is what we're doing today. This is it. So if you don't want to know about this, or you feel like you got enough from the sort of thing that kind of gets talked about sometimes, then, I'll see you in another stream. This is gonna look like an empty document. There's actually like a page and a half of stuff up ahead. So I'm going to be designing and building some lore for, I have about 300 years of La Region history to fill in and play with. I want to focus on a very specific, approximately 30. So we will be discussing today. Mikey, you're gonna be sick of reminders by the time I get through the actual thing. So don't worry if you don't remember what this is or you don't know what this is, because no one does. No one knows what this is. The players have heard the name. We have not delved into this literally at all, and I want to do a thing. Hades, yes, this is the 300 years following Ragnarok, preceding the boarding party Tots campaign. I have a 300-year gap of history in my world, because every campaign I've ever run in this world has happened before Ragnarok. It goes without saying, I hope, if you haven't seen Ragnarok specifically, and you want to, or you're watching it, run. Turn and run. Because to explain this, I have to explain some of Ragnarok. So there's a reason I'm hodling and taking a very, very long time to get started. I'm not just trying to yank your chain, drag you along. I am going to change the stream title for potential spoiler warning for Ragnarok. There we go. Because that's more accurate to what it is. So we are basically going to, you guys will get to see a little bit of the design process and what I have a plan for in the future. So again, as people continue to trickle in, I hope that all of my spoiler warning posts have made it to everyone's ears, because we're about to basically explain a bunch of stuff. You watched Ragnarok before the main campaign? Dude, that's awesome. Mikey, you haven't finished it, but you've spoiled nearly everything by your own curiosity. You know that it happens. It happens, my dude. It happens, buddy. Okay, so enough of this, enough hodling. I'm going to scroll up, and you guys are going to see. I don't know if, when, how. I don't know what this is going to be. I have an idea for a campaign that is going to be different than anything I've done, because I want to do something different. This is, by the way, this is not like we're ending boarding party. It's all over. No, this is not. I had an idea yesterday, and I'm running with it, man. The ADD brain strikes when it strikes, and sometimes it lets you work, and sometimes it doesn't. So this is one of those times. So I'm going to roll this up. And you're going to see stuff that makes no sense to you, and I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to talk you through it, and we're going to find out what doesn't make sense while I'm explaining it. So, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Okay, so we've talked about a couple things. Will this spoil for your players if they may be viewing? No. Zelt Parker, technically no, because they have already learned all of this, but it didn't exist. So I need to fill them in on this anyway. So I am outsourcing my work to also flood in with a stream. So, will it be another one you record like Rag? I don't know. I'll get all of these questions out of the way right now. I don't know if this is going to be a thing. I don't know when this is going to be a thing. I would love for this to be a game that I run. I don't know if it would work. I have no idea. This is about 6 hours of insomnia at work for this document, and then there's some more I need to flesh out. But basically, we have already covered everything that you see here, names aside. And the names are subject to change. So everything here is from, and this is the only spoiler for Boarding Party campaign, the Tots have learned about this war, kind of. They only know the bare minimum of it for a reason that I will not get into. If you've watched the whole campaign up to now, you kind of know why. And if you haven't, again, there are spoiler warnings everywhere. What are you doing here? So I have the Duke. There are two sides to this war. I have the Seat of the Righteous Duke, Byron the Valiant. Devin, you are absolutely allowed to be here, my friend. I am doing world building for a thing that does not exist yet. So you are allowed and encouraged to be here, my guy. This is going to touch on the War of the Architects, and by touch on I mean literally explain it. But you, Joel, Ben, you're all welcome to watch this whenever you want. These are things I don't even know yet, so I don't care if you guys know it, because ideally you guys would be the players in this campaign if it gets to be one. Okay, but enough faffing about. Basically, we had two big factions, okay? You have the Righteous Duke. Oh my goodness. Kate Budd has followed. Thank you, Kate Budd. You're a gift and a treasure. And I need to slide the alert box over the top of the window capture so you guys can see that. And I'll put it over here. Okay. But, yes, you guys are allowed to be here, but I'm going to zone out for a minute and just kind of blabber lore at you. You've had two great houses. Well, two great factions. There's a lot of great houses. Two great factions. You have Duke Byron the Valiant. He is the head of the largest church. So the largest church oversees the three great houses, okay? We're gonna cover this all in greater detail later. But funny side tangent, somebody asked if Mr. Fudd was going to be president of the Laris Region, and I said there is no president of the Laris Region because it's not a democracy. The Laris Region is a monarchy. Fight me. Fight me, lore masters. So, important names that I will embolden for the lot of you watching right now. You have House Carnelia, who is the standing army and the heads of the church. You have House Andromeda. These are the high-level arcane casters. And you have House Halcyon, or Halcyon, however you want to say it. I really don't know. But I love putting words in my games that I don't even know how to say. And these are Diviners, Oracles, and Psionic Acolytes. You might be noticing there's a strong amount of lore up here that I just glossed over. This is, if I were to have players in this game, you pick a team. You are either fighting for this guy, Seat of the Righteous, Duke Byron the Valiant, and his three noble houses, united under the Court of Roses, because, again, I love nonsense fantasy names. And they are at odds with the Shadow's Hands. So the Shadow's Hands, you kind of know. You sort of know these guys. You may or may not recognize the name Gravetender. There you go. There he is. So the idea of this campaign is it's actually two campaigns. And they are being waged by two different groups of parties, potentially more, and they are warring against each other. So, ideally, what I would have is you have Duke Byron's house. These are your paladins, your arcane casters, and your clerics. You will only find paladins, arcane clerics, arcane casters, and clerics on this side that are not of a nature domain. So nature, tempest, things like that. You will not find those people here. So this would be the most regimented thing I have ever used in a campaign starting document ever, where I will actually tell people if they want to play a specific class, if they are dead set, you are locked into a side. You have one side or the other, and I'll explain that later. If you're on this side, you will typically see paladins, clerics, arcane casters. Fighters and rogues typically are like your front line. Your rogues would be your scouts and bards. These guys have super powerful high magic weapons. They have healing potions. They have resources. They have money. They have standing armies. They have plate armor. They have horses. They have all kinds of stuff. And the Shadow's Hands have none of that. You don't have any of those things. You're a much lower level. You're expendable. You might die a lot. If you end up down here. But this is where you'll find your druids, your rangers, your rogues, your barbarians, your monks. Artificers work down here to attempt to harness a fraction of what folks are just gifted with up to the north. So these guys live in the greater Laresian kingdoms to the north. Hades, they don't yet. So there's a very important thing about Ragnarok that I'm going to wait a little bit to explain, but I'll get there. I promise. So these guys. These three great houses are all governed by Duke Byron of House Cornelia. Head priest of the largest church in the region. These guys do not like the natural world. They do not like the natural order. They do not believe that people should be losing their magic to nature, which is what is happening post-Ragnarok. Following the so here's your spoiler warning for Ragnarok. This is the last time I'm going to touch on spoilers because we're 15 or 17 minutes in. Here you go. At the end of Ragnarok, you have a fella who's hovering and levitating in, holding a mountain that he has ripped out of near present-day Xantha. And in his destruction, there are 3 timelines. There are 3 timelines in the Laris region. So I need you guys to remember this, okay? There are 3 timelines to the Laris region. This is some spoilers for lore and stuff. But it doesn't matter to the players because they're in the middle one. The middle one is set. It doesn't matter. This campaign would determine the fate of the other 2, which one becomes more dominant. Okay? Because I know how the War of the Architects ends. I'm not worried about that. I know how that ends. We've discussed that. We've covered that. That's already done. I want to look at that period of time in between. I want to look at these guerrilla warfighters that use the entirety of the mass expanse, this like 30 miles deep forest north of Greengate. I want to look at these guys. I want to see how they deal with a literal, like, it's an arcane radiation in the land. Everything south of Greengate is completely inhospitable, or so people think. I do world building in a very absolutes method where I will write down what the people of the world think, not necessarily what is true. So that might get confusing at some point, but basically I am speaking hyperbolically most of the time when I'm talking about world building. Every individual person down here might have their own views, but these guys overall believe that magic should be with nature. Hello, Jab Warrior. Thank you for the follow, my friend. Thank you, thank you. Hello, Ice Prince. Welcome aboard. So, Hades, to put things lightly for everybody to understand, neither of these sides are good. Like, they are not good people. They are not led by good people. They do not believe in good things. This guy is willing to do literally whatever it takes to make sure that people hold on to magic. Because that's the way it's always been. People have always had magic. If people lose their magic, people lose their power. If you lose your power, your divine churches and your clerics and your paladins can no longer enforce your will. You're not worth as much. You're just a dude with a sword now instead of a dude with a sword that can smite me across the kingdom. Or can, banish something to another plane. If you lose that power, your whole kingdom crumbles. You have nothing. You have nothing left. So these guys will do literally whatever it takes. The guys down here understand that because of what happens at the end of Ragnarok, okay, people start losing their magic powers. These heavily empowered natural creatures start to pop up. That's what's supposed to happen because that's what happened. That's what these guys think. These guys want that to be the case because that's the way things are now. And they live in a forest that I will probably change the name of, called the Heart of the Wild Mother. So it is a 30-mile deep stretch of forest. There are no roads through this forest. It is completely impassable on horseback. You cannot bring a cart through. And you can only traverse it safely if you are accompanied by a druid or a ranger that knows the land or can basically entreat with it to let you through. So if you were to send, say, a force of like 10,000 plate-armored knights, by the end of the march through, you might have like 1,300 left, and they will have seen some stuff. Because these woods are designed to shift and change, make you feel lost, and then reclaim you. That's the whole point of this. And the reason the forest is this way is because of these guys up top. They did this after the big explosion that does our big time split. Okay? And this might be like the most boring thing you guys will ever see. It's just me prattling on about nonsense for a D&D game that I think would be kind of fun to run, but may never run. But anyways, enough tangents. Let's get to the good stuff. These guys up top, after the explosion down south, pretty much everything in present-day Laris Region is gone. There's nothing there. People know the town names. They remember old maps. They can rebuild it. But the way it is right now, there's no possible way anybody could survive down there. It's just an arcane wasteland. So when am I rolling a character for this? Friday. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I don't know. I got inspired. I wanted to talk about lore stuff. This is, by the way, completely not canon to Boarding Party's campaign. So that's why I don't care if the players are here. I wanted to build a campaign setting because I got inspired. So we're going to do that. I know this sounds crazy, but what if there was some kind of mad investor that made an airship pass at some point? I mean, that would be cool, but the technology's not quite there. But anyways, so the Heart of the Wild Mother is this super, super dense forest. So south of this, south of Green Gate, which keeps its name from the Laris region because I am still in the same world, but not the same timeline, so that I can do stuff like this. I like to explore this nonsense so that in a future game, when somebody wants to look up the history, they can find this war, and I'll have players that have played it. So they'll know how it plays out because I'll know how it plays out because they were there. But then their characters can learn about it in retrospect. Still Pokemon influenced or not? Half and half. The guys up here are designed entirely to capture and destroy Pokemon, mutant creatures. So they would be the ones hunting down anything that could be a threat to them, which is anything abnormal. So they don't care about a wolf, but if a Mightyena shows up, they're gonna bind it and destroy it. So these guys invent Pokeballs because they want those things gone. They use their arcane and divine abilities to literally imprison these things. These guys down here, they take that technology and they twist it and they warp it to work on divine casters and arcane casters. Because they, rather than focusing on binding a creature, they bind the energy. Hello, magician. Hello, hello. So these guys have those flesh capture balls, because those have been a thing in my world before. These guys have those, and those are inspired by these guys. So these guys have incredibly powerful healing magics. They have the strongest marching army. The problem is you can't march an army through a forest that is so dense you can't see 5 feet in front of you, and that is literally enchanted to destroy you for trying. You can't do it. It doesn't work. So these guys, the Shadow's Hands, nobody knows how many of them there are, because every player in this party is going to run at least 3 characters. At least 3. You're going to have your main character, and you're going to have at least 2 sidekicks. And that is because you're probably going to die a lot. You will probably die. Hades? No. So again, this is a separate dealio. So I like where your head's at. But not in this timeline, because I can't do anything in this that ruins, contradicts, or spoils Boarding Party's campaign. Because that's already set. That's already set in stone. That stuff's already going on. I know how that world works. I need to know how this world works. Because I have 2 campaign settings. I have one that has Pokemon, and I have one that does not. But I also have the land in the middle right before things happened. It's a crazy idea. Hope you don't get attached to any of them. Exactly. That's the point. Your main character is going to start at level 5. Your 2 sidekicks are level 3. The guys up top, their main character starts at level 8. And their backup starts at level 5. So the high-level paladin would have a relatively high-level squire. And they would be riding into battle. And the idea is one of these guys could probably kill 5 or 6 of these. But these guys outnumber these guys like 30 or 40 to 1. Because these guys use subterfuge. The Shadow's Hands are all guerrilla tactics. They stay within the heart of the Wild Mother. They don't leave because it's safe for them in there. In open ground, they'll just get run down by dudes on horseback and destroyed. Let's see. But yeah, so the idea would be pseudo West Marches, if you're familiar with the idea. I talk about it all the time. These guys down here, the parties that would work for the Shadows Hands are going to be... Oh, God, I got to talk about the biggest part of this. So the biggest part of this campaign setting, is it's actually just a birthright game. This is a birthright game. We are going to be running a game for ideally 3, maybe 4 barons, dukes, equivalent levels of nobility. They are landed nobles. These landed nobles will be playing basically a big game of diplomacy, working to end this war in a better position than their house started it. So these are just some examples. The players would have to come up with their own. The players on the ground level can be from any part of this. They can make up their own. It doesn't really matter. But the folks that run the Shadows Hands, that's going to be one group or faction. And I have an idea of who I would want that player to be. I'm not going to tell you. Sorry. But I have an idea of who that player would be. And I want them to come up with a relic or something that they think would help these Shadows Hands. And that'll be these guys' dungeons. This is how they're going to level up. They're going to go find super old divine relics. Excuse me, too much tea. So these guys, all of their missions are going to be go into the heart of the Wild Mother or go brave that arcane wasteland and go find stuff. They're going to have druids that basically like trance out and get visions from the Wild Mother, and they say go into this wasteland and go find, you know, the sorcerer or warlock that has appeared there and see if they're amenable to helping us out. We need that kind of help. So that's what these guys are going to be doing. So they're going to have like old, decrepit dungeons to go into. They're going to have ancient temples to go ransack or restore, depending on where their heads are at. So they can have... You can run a cleric or a paladin and be a part of the Shadows Hands, but you're limited in your choice of gods. You can't be anything that prefers civilization. You can't be anything that leans towards the arcane. You've got to be natural based. So you could play like a nature or a tempest cleric, but if you want to be like a forge cleric, you're up here and you're probably a part of House Cornelia. Like there is a place where you can be based on your subclass and your class that you want to choose. Let's see, what else do we need? Court of Roses. Basically, all I did is flesh out these 3 names from up top. Halcyon, Andromeda, and Cornelia are all a part of down here. Would there be objects in the Arcane Wasteland that had random enchantments? No, they would have very, very, very specific enchantments. Are townships and land management going to be a part? No. So, in a perfect world, in a vacuum, when I was thinking about this campaign, the way I would handle it, and this probably will never work, so I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but this was the first thought, and then I scrapped it, was I would have all of the players that are going to be playing, if it's filmed, pick a side. Everybody's on one or the other. You can't do both. You're on one side or the other. We film both and put one out for the general public and one out on the Patreon side. Again, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. This is not a thing that's set in stone. This was just the blueprint that I had. Is you put one out every other week on the YouTube channel, and you put the other one out every other week that's not that same week, just for the patrons. And then what you do is you stream to the population of those kingdoms. So you say, this is the decree of your king. This is what's going on. These are the adventurers that are going places. What's the citizenry's take on this? And what basically like what trouble do they run into on their next journey, and we talk it out and we vote for it. The problem with that is that's a ton of work and requires 2 subsequent games. It gatekeeps pretty heavy, and that's not really a thing that I want to do that often, but it would be super cool. So my compromise for it, the way I've come up with a compromise is if I get a chance to run this for the boarding party crew, and I'm noticing right now that the chat box is like a little bit too big. There we go. So the way it would probably work is we would just film both sides and do nothing with it until it was over. If I even got to do this. I don't know. Basically, I got inspired. I wanted to write a bunch of lore down, and I hit go live on Twitch. So here we are. So thankfully, I have, in my past, run so many games that had so many heroes that had so many cool stories that never went anywhere. I'm going to just shove them all in here. So we're going to fill out some NPCs in here. But we have 30-ish years of history to play with. Because I know that this war goes on for about 30 years in earnest, and then kind of falls to a stalemate for reasons. So, here's what I need. I need the lords of these great houses. The lords and ladies of this great house. Right here. I know the leader of the Shadow's Hands, and we will cover that maybe in another one of these if I can get my act together and actually like figure out what I'm doing. The more you explain, the more I want to throw money at y'all to make this. Maybe someday. Because again, I'm coming up with this idea at literally the worst time, because we're still like very much in the thick of the boarding party campaign, and there's about to be like some pretty major life changes going on. So here we are. It's also about to be the holidays, and nobody's gonna have any time to like sit down and just start this, which is kind of a bummer. But I wanted to strike while the iron's hot. So I also need, these are the things that I need. I have 30 years of history. I need lords and ladies of the great houses. I need city names for at least 5 large cities. Ideally 15 or so small towns. I have to rebuild an entire region because I am doing something to the north and west of the Laris region. So nothing south of Greengate will be anything anybody's ever heard of. I learned that from Ragnarok, because as soon as I put something into somewhere that the players can go, suddenly the players want to go a place. And they're like, so maybe someday we'll go there and we'll look for stuff. So, I don't know. The lords and ladies of Patreonus. No, maybe I'll just call them the patrons of the great houses. But these would be their full titles. But it's kind of a mouthful to say. The lords and ladies of the great houses of the Greater Laris Kingdom, which is a bit redundant because the Greater Laris Kingdom is just a kingdom I've had in my setting forever. This is actually where that book would come in handy if I knew where I put it. I don't remember where I put it, so never mind. I was gonna go get that campaign book that I've shown you guys so many times now and pluck all the names out of it, but alas. Oh well. Oh no, there it is. It's under Dune. Okay. Boom, baby. Boom. So, here's the deal. I now get to use something I've been sitting on for about, I don't know, 7 years at this point. Like 7 years. The Laris in Tots time is the UK, and you're creating the rest of the UK. Pretty much. Yeah, they are just one of the many regions of the Greater Laresian Kingdom, also known as the Laris Region, because that's just what people call it if you're not from there. So I have names and faces and places and all kinds of things. So, House Carnelia. We're gonna make a break point here. We're gonna organize it all fancy, like so. Bolden this, please. House Carnelia. Turn off the bold. House Carnelia is run by Duke Byron. I get a run by. I'm not gonna focus too much on like wording and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. I'm gonna focus on what'll make sense to me when I come back to the document, because I'm writing these notes for me, and I'm just happy to have you guys along. It's exciting to talk about this kind of stuff. So it's run by Duke Byron the Valiant. He is the only son. You know what? Let's not be needlessly reductive. He's the only child of House Carnelia. His parents are the king and queen, Murtog and Kivoth, respectively. And this is a thing that I have known for years and years and years. Which biomes are you looking for the new cities? Incredibly tamed, civilized. These are going to have roads. They will have technology. There will be like street lamps, guards positioned. There's almost no bandit activity within like 5 miles of any major road. Everything north of Greengate is hyper condensed, civilized, very dense populations. We're talking like millions of people instead of hundreds. This place is flush with cash. They have money. They have terraformed everything. They have enchantments on to keep nature from growing. There is no grass. There is nothing. Duke Byron himself is a beyond heroic level cleric. And I will probably have to change a few things about his backstory, because it's been 7 years and I've changed my mind of how things work. Because I never get to use this guy. These guys were in the city that got nuked in my first campaign. So I'm, rather than completely remaking literally everything, I'm just going to snake everything I've got. Yeah, for the kingdom at large, think incredibly high fantasy city with remarkably overpowered NPCs. I'm going that full route. Most paladins and clerics you're going to run into are going to be like 12th to 20th levels, some are above. These are literally like they are favored by gods. If the gods were to go to war, these would be their champions. Because Ragnarok just happened. Everybody is now prepared for whatever the fallout's going to be. Oh yeah. Austin, you're exactly correct, my dude. I'm not saying that there is nothing exciting in these cities, but there is no nature in these cities. They have completely broken it and tamed it. How obviously evil is he? He's not. The people love him. People think he's great. So let me get you a little bit of backstory on this guy. So it's the richest and most powerful duchy in the kingdom, is House Carnelia. They made their name in the export of armaments and magical artifacts for both the arcane and the divine. So if you've ever had a healing potion or a magic item commission, it came from one of these 3 great houses under the Court of Roses, of which House Carnelia is the largest and most dominant because they have the standing army. His standing army is well over 10,000. He is like 10,000 fully armored mounted troops that he can march at pretty much any time he wants. And he can fund that expedition like it's nothing because he has money. They made a lot of money from selling magic items. It's a high magic city. You're going to see people on like flying carpets and griffins just flying around, and that's no big deal because it's a high magic city. But he's got money, and he's got money to burn. So he's basically partnered with 2 lesser houses and said, I'll bring you up with me as we rise if you keep supplying me with arcane and divine magic items. Because those are the things I need to keep my people happy. You keep that stuff in good supply, I'll keep you defended. Part of keeping everybody defended was enchanting the Heart of the Wild Mother. Problem is it didn't work. Or it worked too well, depending on your perspective. So the idea was to plant a seed that would grow into an impenetrable forest that would keep the arcane corruption from the devastation of Ragnarok at bay. And it worked. Worked really well. But there is so much arcane devastation in that direction. It's intermingling with divine magic, and it's just completely smushed everything together. So that one seed that they planted, a gift from the Wild Mother, is now like a fully beating heart, and the forest is just one big organism. So when you pray to Melora in this setting, you are praying to a literal beating heart of a goddess that has grown into a forest. I'm not going to worry too much about other kingdoms and things like that. I'm not going to worry too much about great houses. Those will be the players that are playing the top-down birthright game. That's their job. They get to come up with that, and once they have a couple, I'll fill in with 3 or 4. Because I don't want... The only thing I know for sure is the birthright players will be in no way recorded, and they will in no way know who the other birthright players are. They don't get to know that. Because they get to play a different kind of D&D, where they are building and running a kingdom, like week to week, or over email or something. That's not very fun to watch. But the politics at large will change, and the missions will be based off that. Out of curiosity, have you thought about why Laris has no more magic? Yes, Mikey, because in Boarding Party's timeline, aka the Ragnarok timeline, these guys won. But so did these. And when both houses win, and you end in a big stalemate, nothing can continue. So, let me say that in a less cringe and unintelligible way. The Cult of the Shadows Hands, cult is a strong word. The Shadows Hands in Boarding Party's timeline, this is the Grave Tender. This is everything he's doing. The Grave Tender and all of this side, everybody down here believes that animals having magic powers is much better than people having magic powers. Because at the end of Ragnarok, that arcane radiation begins to just sap the magic out of the land and the people. And what happens when you have a huge concentration of something in the soil and the animals get to it? They start to get magic powers. Totally normal science stuff, right? I don't know if that's how it's supposed to work, but that's how it's going to work. So basically, here's your Laris Region history. Post-Ragnarok, you've got all that arcane radiation. It spills into the ground. Every time a high-level caster goes out there to claim something, they are losing casting levels. They're disappearing. So all it takes is the most powerful clerics and paladins from the Duke's houses to make it into that arcane wasteland, and suddenly you're getting more and more of these mutations showing up in nature, and that's where you're getting Pokemon. Now, these guys say that's the way it's supposed to happen because that's the will of the Wild Mother. The Wild Mother's heart was planted in like north of Greengate in that big forest, and it pulled all this magic together and fed it back out. And yeah, exactly. It's like magic mercury poisoning. Thank you. That's great. That's what's going on. So that's what's already happened down there. After the war stops and the Wild Mother's heart no longer needs to fend off people from the north, it just stops protecting the region at large from this like magic siphon and it just lets it happen. Because if you're no longer spending all your resources defending your followers, you can spread forth with the stuff you intended to do anyway, which is absorb all that arcane power and then become dormant. Take magic from the people, which is what these guys wanted. That's what they were praying to their goddess to do, is take magic power away from humans, because clearly they can't be trusted with it. Look at Ragnarok. Look what just happened. You can't have one of those every 10, 15 years. There won't be a world left to save. So there you go. So there's that. So the king and the queen. Canonically, the king is a very, very high-level paladin, but he's old. He's gotten up there in years. But he's an Oath of the Crown paladin. And his queen is a super high-level nature cleric, which is illegal in the kingdom for anybody but her. She was a cleric to Melora, but used her power, twisted it and warped it to keep nature at bay and out of their kingdom. And as such, she no longer has powers. She has nothing. She did what she was going to do and has nothing. Artificers are huge that want to create technology to preserve magic. They don't necessarily want to preserve it, but they're willing to say, like, they're basically like, let's fight fire with fire. Let's go siphon out this incredibly potent arcane energy that's just sitting there. And let's build a bomb out of it, and let's go blow up a supply line for the kingdom so they can't fight back as much. There's a very blurred line, and why I say none of these are good people. The group for the Shadows Hands are the analogy that my dad and I came up with was, if you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you remember that awkward series of episodes with Jet, where there's Fire Nation supplies going into an Earth Kingdom town, and there's like 20 Fire Nation dudes, but they're giving supplies over willingly or otherwise, and they want to blow up a dam and flood the whole village. That's what these guys do. They don't care how they do it. They just want to win. Wouldn't they want to have a means to do magic that it isn't transferred to animals? These guys, no, they don't care. They see that as the will of Melora. If Melora wants to siphon the arcane energy and take it into herself to embolden that forest, then that's her will. Everybody who still has magic that's part of the Shadows Hands prays to Melora and gets to borrow some of it sometimes. So those druids, those rangers, they're not so much casting spells as they are exuding like, hey, I need a favor. I need to make it through here. Exactly. Minnie, you're exactly right. They will do whatever it takes. These are the kinds of guys that would basically like take everything you have, kill you, leave you on the roadside, and then kill your horses. They're not good people. I do have alignment restrictions for up here. You can't be chaotic. You have to be lawful. But you can be good or evil. You can be lawful neutral. And actually, I wrote this in the wrong spot. Because if you haven't noticed by my notes and also all of my rambling, I wrote this at like 2 a.m. last night. So alignment must fall in lawful, though good, neutral, and evil are allowed. Everybody up here is of a lawful alignment. If you make a character for this team, because your levels are so much higher, you're held to a much stricter and narrower set of classes. You're stuck. You are lawful good, lawful neutral, or lawful evil, and you are held to that. There are laws in the kingdom. There are no laws in the Shadows Hands. The only law is basically like you don't fight your teammates. You need them. If you're all 3rd level and there's like 4 8th level clerics coming at you, you need all the help you can get. But these guys down here, if there were to ever be, in a perfect world scenario where I'm running 2 different games at the same time, and one is for the seat of the Righteous Duke, and the other side is the Shadows Hands, if they were ever to come together, I would give the Shadows hands like an hour and a half in wherever the session was going to be to set their traps and line up like the tree line and put their guys in position and get a round of surprise attacks, because they need all the help they can get. If you've got 11 rangers that get 1 attack per round, and you've got a paladin that gets 3, and they can all be divine smites, you need some help when their AC's like 22 because they've got magic items. You need assistance. So there we go. So another big ramble tangent, but basically that's why I've been like so amped up about this. I've been thinking about it constantly, literally for the last 20 hours. Hasn't left my brain. It's been a good time though. Okay, so let's keep filling in some names here. So King Murtog is a 20th plus level paladin of the crown. So I'm not going to write out that he's an Oath of the Crown paladin. We've already got it. I've already started making a character. Good, yeah. The only thing I'll say, Devin, is I don't know when this would happen. So, but please, I would love to have you at that table whenever it does. That would be great. So yeah. He is a 20th level paladin of the crown. Queen Kivoth was a 20th level nature domain cleric. Is the area north of Greengate in the Tots campaign still magical? No. No. It's not regions or areas in the boarding party campaign. It is people. It is individuals. There are individuals in the Laris region that have maintained some degree of what they used to be capable of, or have found something that lets them do this. But in this version of the history, everywhere north is controlled magic. Everywhere south is chaos magic. So you might have noticed I left off the class that I throw the most shade at ever of all time. I left sorcerers off of both these lists, and I left warlocks off as well. Warlock, it depends on your subclass where you are. But most of the time, if you're a warlock or a sorcerer, you're from those arcane deadlands. You don't really have a choice. You either wandered in there as part of an expedition, or you went out because you thought you were brave, and now you're basically blessed with arcane powers that these guys do not trust inherently. Arcane casting down here is almost a cause for immediate death. If they had a court, they would try you for it, but most of the time, if you're at all untrustworthy and they see you practicing arcane casting, you're just put down on the spot because you can't be trusted. So these guys up here would welcome you. So there are a lot of turncoats that go out, they basically get infected with sorcery, and they have to make it north and say, listen, I can sell you information, just keep me alive, and I'll fight for you, I'll use my new powers. But every sorcerer, if you come from here, rolls on the wild magic table. You don't get any of the positive benefits of that wild magic tree unless you've chosen that. But you're on that wild magic table, and that stuff just happens to you. Let's see. I need to write out this. I need to write the arcane deadlands down because I need to fill that up because I need to know more about this. Oh yeah, let's talk about character races. Further limited stuff. If you are a member of the House of Duke Byron the Valiant or any of these great houses, if you are an elf, you are a member of one of these two great houses. Halcyon and Andromeda. You are an elf. You are an elf if you are part of this. House Carnelia, you are human or a half-elf. And that's it. You want to be up here, those are your two options. You have those two things. If you're down here and you're an elf, it's bad news, man. Wood elves, encouraged and allowed. High elves are basically executed. Because if you're a high elf, you're from one of these two houses. Drow, totally fine. High elf, murdered. Human down here, highly distrusted. Because you're probably a member of the crown. Everything else, totally fair game. You want to play a bugbear, you want to play a kobold, whatever you want to do. You follow the teachings of Melora, these guys will welcome you with open arms. They don't care. They don't care what you do. If I remember correctly, you force the wild magic table for every spell, right? Yes. Anything above first level. Or first level or above, sorry. Anything that's not a cantrip. If you cast, you're on that table. Because you're boosted from that arcane stuff, but they basically just supercharged you by sending you out there. Animal races like the Tabaxi? Yeah. Yeah, you can be anything you want down here. Just not human and not a high elf. You can be human and be down here. But part of your backstory is you fled. For one reason or another, you have to have left. Because most of the people in Duke Byron's kingdom are elven or human or a half-elf. That is a fusion of elves and humans. And you're specifically a high elf, half-elf. Hello, DB. Dude, so far it's been good because you guys are asking many questions. If you are a Tabaxi in the south, can you spellcast? You best be safe about it. You best be sneaky. What about a human variant? Are you talking about the variant human, like, starting thing where you start with a feet, or are you talking about, like, the other, like, sub-races? Cough, cough, one of your ideas. It's reminding you a lot of Fire Emblem Fates. I mean, yeah, it basically is any story you've ever heard where there's a bunch of great houses that are all kind of feuding around for stuff. You need a good political game, and you need a good bog standard enemy for both sides. Would rock gnomes come from the north and forest gnomes from the south? No, everything that's not, like, genuinely, if you're not a high elf or a human and you're in the north, you're hunted. You're sport. That's all you are. Because they can control high elves and humans. They know where you came from. DB, I am doing world building for a game that I may never run. I've wanted to run a Birthright game for like 1,000 years, and I've never had the opportunity or the time. But I finally figured out when in the region history it would happen. So I figured I'd stream it. Where's the line cross between humanoids and animals? If you're talking about, like, things becoming Pokemon, it's basically if you are a player character, you're humanoid. How much to get in one of these games? That just depends if I ever actually get to run one. Human variant with, like, the feet, but having some qualities of someone from the south. The only requirement is, because humans traditionally in D&D are omnipresent, they're everywhere, they're like cockroaches, they're all over the place. You can be a human, but you're a defector. And these guys are not likely to trust you easily. Again, one of the things I'm trying with this game is being a lot more strict and stringent with worldviews and how they see people. It's a thing I don't usually do. So humanoids and animals to be acceptable for spellcasting? Yeah, basically if you're a player character, if you're a Tabaxi like Shadow Sorcerer, you're not really welcome anywhere. You better make a name for yourself quick. Or have somebody that can and will vouch for you. Rock gnomes are technological. All gnomes would be south. Forget what you think you know about the races of D&D. If you're a human, a half-elf, or a high elf, you live in this kingdom. If you're a human defector, or anything else, you're down here. And if you don't fit in either of these two, you're from the Arcane Deadlands, and you better pick a side. Because you need to be somewhere. But, yeah, it's basically... It's not... They're not like shoot on sight, but it is an inherent distrust. Where do wizards sit? The seat of the righteous duke. They control all arcane and divine casting. Oh yeah. Nah, DB, like I kind of figured you guys might get a kick out of this. That's why we're here. So I'm glad that you guys seem to be having a good time. You know, the ideas of humans in the Shadowhands must be sidekicks and not the main character. Pretty much, you're not respected. Like it's gonna get a little bit touchy for some folks. But it's literally like that's how the world has. That's how this world was made to work. I'm holding myself to it. A sorcerer or warlock posing as a wizard, you're still in the north. If you have any arcane powers at all, you're in the north. If you're a sorcerer that got like infected, that's how the Shadowhands would see you. Is you have an infection and we need to fix you. They would take you before Melora and she would strip you of your arcane powers. If you're a warlock, that's a different thing altogether. That just depends who your patron is and how you show your magic. Because these guys are totally fine if you're a caster. That's okay. But you better be working with them very openly. Is there some way to find out if you were an arcanist of any kind? Like, could people just not cast spells and be fine? No, the Shadowhands don't have the resources to tell. So if you're a wizard down here and you just never cast a spell in front of anybody, and they never see you like reading a spell book or anything like that, then you're just a dude. Cool. These guys don't have the technology for it. These guys do. It's meant to feel very one-sided because these are, of the two factions, these are the good guys. But it's hard to tell because they're all kind of scumlords. That's sort of the vibe we're going for. I love a complicated interpersonal system. So human variant with the feet, but having some qualities of someone from the south. Basically, like, if you want to play a human, I'm not going to tell you you have to be from up here, but it's going to work kind of like the inverse of most D&D worlds. Humans are open arms, free passage up here. And I keep pointing at the screen like you guys can see it. If you're in the land of the great houses, if you're in the greater Laris Region kingdom and you're a human, you're totally safe. If you're a human in the land of the Shadowhands, if you've made a name for yourself or you're very obviously not an arcane caster, they don't care. Then they're like, okay, cool, whatever. That's fine. But if you're an arcane casting human, if you're a human wizard, these guys are going to brain you before you're within like 300 yards of the forest. All their special rangers and their monks are just going to come in and shut you down. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. These guys. So I've already talked about if you're on this team, you're going to have at least 2 sidekicks. You don't necessarily have to bring them with you everywhere. And it is for your benefit, depending on your class. You basically have like 2 squires. So if you're a ranger, they can help you carry extra stuff. Psionic Warriors are limited to the houses. They are limited to a specific house. You are from Halcyon. If you have any kind of psionic ability, if you want to be a divination wizard, an aberrant mind sorcerer, you are from that house and they made you that way. Where would you put a Goliath? A Goliath would fall down here. These guys, they're too distrusting of anything outside. So if like a 9-foot tall dude comes walking in all big and burly, they're going to flip. They're going to lose their minds. Random class idea, an arcane trickster rogue, but more sorcerer based instead of wizard who gets their power from the wasteland. That would be pretty sick. I'm not saying it's off the table. These guys, by the way, the rogues up here are your like scout, swashbuckler, mastermind rogues. The rogues down here are your assassins. Arcane tricksters kind of ride the line, and I would let any player that wants to play them know they're the most common infiltration units. People will probably distrust you. because you're already inherently kind of sneaky and you're really good at gathering information, and that means you could be really good at flipping information over. What about more rare races like goblins or Githyanki? I don't typically use Githyanki or Gith or anything, and I've never had a Warforged at the table. If you can come up with an in-game lore reason of why you can have those, totally fine. If somebody comes to me and they say, "Hey, I really like the stat line of this player character that I made," I'm going to tell you no. I need you to sell it to me. Like, I need to know. I need to know why you get to be the one that you've decided to be. And you got to meet me a little bit. You got to meet me halfway, you know? But if you're a Warforged, theoretically, you were built by an Artificer of the Shadow's Hands. Like, that's pretty much what you are. If you're like a Warforged Paladin, then you're some Artificer probably defected. There's Artificers on both sides, so technically it's probably fine. Because they are still an Arcane caster, so I will put the Artificers up here as well. Because I don't know what to do with Artificer. I have no idea. They're too new. I've never run for one. I don't know. I've always homebrewed that. So I don't know. I don't know how they would work. Warforged could be a prototype for Golurk. They could. They could be. But yeah, basically what I'm thinking of, anybody that's asking a question about like goblins or anything like that, you're out here. You're in the Deadlands. You used to be human or halfling or a gnome, and are now kind of monstrous. You're like the ghouls in Fallout. The folks up north pity you and would be looking for like a cure, even though there is no cure. You're just the way that you are. And the folks down south would probably distrust you, but if you're willing to help them fight, then you're welcome. You can be there. Artificers would make great magic item creators. Yeah, they pretty much have the ability to. They have a lot of like high level enchanters. The folks up here, I'm really doing a poor job of like overstacking this side and really underselling this side. This is your thematic, like, I want to play a more traditional D&D game. This is, I have time once a month to kind of be involved and do like a combat. I want to play like an 8th level paladin that has 2 diviner wizard rerolls stacked up. Like, that's basically what this is turning out to be. So that'll probably get changed over time. I have no idea. I don't know. But this is good. I'm enjoying that you guys have so many questions, because it's forcing me to come up with answers, which is exactly why I wanted to do this. Because that's a good thing to have. What do we have? We have Theanor, High Elf Diviner. He's like, I'm going to put him at like 18th level. Because while these guys do welcome the arcane casters, House Carnelia is very secretive. They're not like a huge. They're not a great. They're not great at trusting arcane casters. They use arcane casters. So when do we play, dude? Hopefully. So is there a specific area monks or mystics, if allowed, would come from? If you are a mystic in the more traditional sense, you are from Halcyon. If you are a monk, I do allow, for thematic reasons, to be you're effectively like a chi blocker. And you can shut down casters, but you would come from the south. I think it's cool the way it is. The dichotomy between the 2 polar opposite kingdoms makes for super interesting story. Yeah, I think a lot of folks, when they want to build a world, they overcomplicate it. They put like 4,000 factions and there's 90 kingdoms. Start small. Focus on one area and build out from there. That's always worked better for me. This whole book took place in a single city and they blew it up almost immediately. Kate Bud asks, are most people open with their class and magic? Or is there a ton of secretive people about due to how strict things are? Both. It depends where you are. If you're up north and you're like a cleric or a paladin, you're a superhero. People love you. They applaud you, but also they fear you because you could smite them. They have no idea. You have a lot of power in being a divine caster from the north. But if you're a divine caster in the south and you're not to Melora, you're food. They will hunt you. These guys will literally chase you down because you're empowering their enemy. And they don't trust that. I'm going to get a stool so I can sit down. Bloop. Because I've been standing and expositing and it's been great. But yeah, I would allow for players, and I mean obviously now it's going to be an element of distrust, but you could hide your class from the party that you're in. You can be a spy for the other side. Just be careful about it, because if your party finds out about you and they kill you, I'm not saving you. Like you did it. You did it to yourself. How are bards treated? They have magic is one thing, but the fact that most bards are loved by the common folk. Bards are welcome pretty much anywhere, because that's how information is dispensed throughout both the kingdom and the forest. So if you're a bard that can make it through the heart of the Wild Mother, they respect you. And I think I'm doing a poor job of explaining how the South views arcane magic. It's not that they want to kill you, and I may have said that and I meant divine, but it's not that they want to kill you. It's that they see you as having a blight, and they would encourage you heavily but not force you to go see the Wild Mother. So they would be like, we could take you if you ever want to be cured. We could take you to the heart of the forest, or your powers might be really useful in this war we're fighting. So they kind of give you an option, but it's not really an option. They're asking you without asking you. But if you're a bard up north, depending on, what your reputation is as a song weaver, you might be welcome anywhere. But your subclasses are limited. Like if you want to be a College of Lore, College of Glamour bard, you're up north. But a College of Whispers bard makes for a phenomenal spy for either side, or even just between houses. Let's put monstrous folk live here. Sorcery and warlocking. I don't know how to type that. How does the Wild Mother manage to take magical powers from someone such as a warlock who gains their powers from a higher deity? So they don't. The Wild Mother doesn't take eldritch casting. She doesn't mess with that. But if you're like a warlock of the whatever the subclass is, that escapes me. The one where your patron is like an angel or something. She would take that from you. She can help you break that contract. She can't just overtly take it, but she can override that contract and start a new one for you. Thoughts on shifter races? Basically a half lycanthrope. Totally fine, but you're from the Arcane Deadlands. And again, you guys might be surprised. There are very, very few things at a table I will say no to if you can come up with an in-lore reason that makes sense. And I'm more than happy to meet you halfway and help you get there. That's great. I think those are awesome characters. I would love somebody up here, like an 18th level, or not an 18th level, sorry, like an 8th level paladin, right? Who's a devout follower of the crown. But on the full moon, you become a bloodthirsty werewolf. And then your royal family is now trying to keep that a secret. The Wild Mother is very involved. Are there any other deities with plans of some sort? Yes. The short answer is yes. The folks down here are very, very entangled with Melora, but that is not the only patron deity that is allowed there. The folks down here will welcome pretty much anybody. They're more looking at your intentions down here. That they care about what you have to do and what you could do for them. The folks up here care a great deal about your intentions and who you're worshiping. That's controlled. That, like, if you walk around out here with a symbol of Melora, like, you'll be executed. She's outlawed here. They don't want her there. It'd be awesome to have a shifter who's half Lycanroc or Zoroark or something. I agree. I think it'd be super cool. But like any big boon to a character, I need you to meet me halfway. You got to sell me on it. Are the companions people or Pokemon? Dealer's choice. Dealer's choice. I'm thinking of the Griff Maya partnership. I'm thinking of the Elmar Co partnership, where it's somewhere in between. But druids and rangers are very good. I love them. What organizations cross the line? I mean, I'd have to change the name because I stole it from Matt Colville years and years ago. But my traditional name from my Thieves Guild is the Clock, and I stole that from Matt Colville shamelessly. Love that man. Love everything he's ever put out. He's the inspiration for everything, including this stream. But yeah, I used the Clock in about half of my cities and towns, because a great way to ingratiate it was the clock is always ticking, but it never tells time, to show that they're active in that city. What about Percy and Undertow? I'm thinking more in the vein of like Maya was a naturally occurring like saber-toothed tiger that he could imbue powers into, and spoiler alert for the intro scene of Ragnarok, but I said I wasn't going to warn anybody anymore. But Ko was human boy who became Pokemon. So those are kind of like the two extremes. So you could pick either of those things. But Percy and Undertow would be how people see warlocks now. They're like, yes, magic caused it, but a warlock was a huge part of stopping this from going any further. So a warlock was present on that day, and had they not been, who knows what else would have been destroyed, you know? So Percy and Undertow is kind of a rough idea because that's a heroic character. Same with Elmar. Same with Bones and Refusul and stuff. These are household names that, depending on what side of the border you're on, that tail gets shifted. If you're to the south of the border, that's why these guys welcome pretty much anybody, because you can overthrow it. Is the Clock in both kingdoms? The Clock is region wide. All of my Thieves Guilds work internationally. They go everywhere. I would have to change the name of the Clock, which is fine. I don't mind. But I had the Clock and the Road, because those were his two examples, and I thought those were amazing because he's a great writer. So I borrowed them. I stole them. The clock is always ticking, but it never tells time, and the road runs through X city. Would tell you if the Thieves Guild was active there. And if you're ever a rogue at my table, I have a video for you to watch on how to speak in Thieves' Camp. It'll be very fun. So don't let that sway you one way or another. But I encourage you, if you who else can I shamelessly plug? Dale Kingsmill. If you're ever looking for ideas on how to build a small town and flesh it out more fully, or what to do with high damage rolls that lead to injuries, way more in depth ranger and druid wild shapes and partners, go check out Dale Kingsmill. I will link that in the Discord later, because right now I think it'll just pick up on here, and I need it to not do that. Let me grab I will link Let me grab the YouTube channel for Dale Kingsmill is Monarch's Factory. I will drop that in the Discord. Okay, so I put that in the community plugs. Does the Southern Kingdom have houses? No. No, the Southern Kingdom is tents. It's people living off the land and living in within the folds of the Heart of the Wild Mother. They don't have a kingdom anymore. These are refugees from the Arcane Deadlands that made their way as far north as they could and found somewhere that was safe and stopped going. And they settled down. What are you looking at for party size? Ideally, for the Heart of the Righteous, no larger than 4. If it's recorded. If it's not recorded, I don't care. But the Shadows Hands, if we were recording, no larger than 6. But then I would bump it down from needing 2 sidekicks to 1. You would have a sidekick character. Similar to the Chain of Acheron for MCDM. Where they had a main character, and then they had like a right-hand man that was 1 or 2 levels below, so that if something happened to your main character, you knew who you were playing. So you're making 3 characters, 1 really fleshed out, 1 kind of fleshed out, and 1 that's like, okay, I really need to start being more careful. And then you hire some more dudes. But yeah, the Southern Kingdom does not have houses, and they are not governed. They are not governed. It would only be a local game. More than likely, yeah, just to keep things as consistent as I can for editing purposes and stuff like that. Because as doable as it was to do remote, you lose a lot when you're not face-to-face and you don't have that interaction. Let's see. But yeah, the group size for this would be like 3 or 4, but you're going to be super high level. And you're going to have a squire that's also pretty high level and fully capable on their own. It's worth noting, because I haven't touched on it. Fighters are welcome everywhere, because you need troops to fill an army. And if you want to just be a dude with a sword and a shield, I don't care who you want to fight for. You can do whatever you want. You can be on either side. Barbarians are down here though, because this is like primal rage that's not really welcome in civilized lands. Similar to Undertow, though, there are patrons just abound in the Arcane Deadlands. There's a reason that I have written this in such a weird and goofy way. If you're looking to become a warlock and you go into the Deadlands and you have something to offer, you can just go pick up a patron. Become a first level warlock on top of whatever you're doing. That's super easy. But you might also accidentally become like a wild magic sorcerer and you're like, oh beans, I'm screwed. And of course there are ways of protecting yourself from this, but cross that bridge when we get to it. But let's see. Monstrous folk live here. Things abound. Arcane relics of the past can be found by those who know where to look. It's a very room of requirement deal. If you know where to look, you will find stuff. If you don't know where to look, you will probably find a warlock patron that will either kill you, corrupt you, or otherwise offer you a deal. Let's see here. What more do we need to know about the Arcane Deadlands? Similar mechanics to Feywild, Shadowfell. Lots of corruption tables. Every rest. Because basically every day of travel, you're risking being corrupted out there. Who is the voice of the Wild Mother? The voice of the Wild Mother is every druid. So being a druid down here is a big deal. There's only like 6. But they can get you into and out of the Heart of the Wild Mother completely unperturbed and in like a fraction of the time. Because they can just move the trees, or you can move through the trees, literally, and like appear on the fringes. But if you take a druid out on a mission and they don't come back, the penalty is death. So, you know, keep them safe. But if you wanted to play a druid, you could circumvent that. You could just be a druid, and you're like, yeah, I get what you guys are doing, but I need to do this. The only alternative to that is either the scout class for rogues or most ranger subclasses. Then you can pass through. You can't like move through the tree literally, but you can pass through the trees without being killed because you know how to walk the land without disturbing it. And I need to throw that in there too. There we go. So the queen no longer has access to her divine magics. It's all gone. It's been stripped of her as soon as she completed the ritual to prevent Melora's spread north. Melora cut her off. Said, okay, fine. 2 can play that game. But given her location, there's not a whole lot Melora can do about her. So she's basically like this incredible cleric of betrayal. I didn't see if you answered my question. Your phone gave out on service. The party size? If it's party size, it depends on if it's recorded or not. But the TLDR is if you're up here and we're recording, no more than 4. If you're down here and we're recording, no more than 6. But if there are 6 down here, then you only have to do 1 sidekick each. You can have more because there is a very important line in here. And anybody that is familiar with Dune is going to see a lot of stuff in here right now because part of why I'm inspired is I'm getting super into Dune. So these guys they're like the Fremen. Nobody knows, like they have mastery over this forest. They can go in and out as much as they want to. And nobody knows how many of these guys there are. But they outnumber the King's Knights in an unfair fight. They're effectively like 3-1 if they have territory advantage. Because these guys get lair actions if you're fighting in the woods. If any paladins or clerics get a little too big for themselves and they get an ego and they start barging in, and we roll for initiative, and it's 2 groups of player characters. The player characters that are fighting for the Shadow's Hands get legendary actions and legendary resistances for as long as they're within the bounds of the forest. Like, they'll have extra cover, or they might get a free use of, like, Entangle or Spike Growth or something to really slow things down. If they entangle something, they might get to use, like, Heat Metal on a whole bunch of dudes all at once. But that's because in a one-on-one fight, these guys will get slaughtered. But if they have home field advantage, you're basically you might as well outmatch them on a basis of like 3 or 4-1. But let's see, what more can we write down? Chance to obtain random cantrips or spells. There we go. So if you're wandering in the Arcane Deadlands, it's not a high DC to beat. In my head, it's like 5. But you're going to be making an intelligence save every night if you sleep there. And if you fail, something happens to you. It might be good, it might be bad. You might start like growing scales or something. You might, sprout a bunch of fur. You might become a lycanthrope. You might learn firebolt. You might learn fly at like a 5th level once a day. But you might also just become an irradiated husk, and your hit point maximum is going to drop every day until you die. So it's dangerous, but there's an incredible reward in it for you if you're successful. So the people that know how to traverse the Deadlands are in very, very short supply and very, very high demand. So we need ranger folk capable of traversing these lands safely, knowing what is okay to eat and or drink, and where is safe to camp, and for how long. So the other way around that would be to risk like exhaustion points, going in here, staying awake, going in, getting what you need, and only making one save, as opposed to camping, pressing on, taking a short rest, pressing on, taking a short rest, doing your thing, camping, and then taking the 2 days to get out. That's like 5 rolls. If you have a ranger with you and they can double your travel speed, then you're only making like 2 or 3. So those guys are big. They're very important. And a huge part of how you would be able to go into the Arcane Deadlands, if you're part of the Shadow's Hands, is running like heists, basically. You go pull off a heist in the Seat of the Righteous Duke. You might roll up a couple like thief rogues or arcane tricksters. Just roll some characters for an expedition and go. But if somebody gets caught, these guys have ways to just divine and read your mind, and they'll know everything that you did. So it's risky business. Where the guys down here, you have traditional, interrogation techniques that they could follow through on. But if you're up here, they literally just look into your mind, and they might learn the location of your camp. They might learn the particular path that you took out of the forest, even if you don't remember it yourself. So it's like a huge risk reward, but you might be able to come back with things that protect you from being scryed on, things that cancel out those divinations, things that can reverse your fate, things that could protect you from the Deadlands. You might be able to get like an amulet that can store all that arcane energy instead of it going into your soul. You could just store it and then bring it to Melora and have it cleansed. So there's all kinds of weird, goofy stuff that we might be doing. But I do get to bring back notable patrons and threats. And we're gonna bold this so I don't lose it. We're gonna bring back the Architect of Rot. I can't remember the third one. I'll write the third one later. I'll remember the third one later, hopefully. I'd have to find the other campaign setting book that I used. The Architect of Rot, patron of grave clerics and undead, undying warlocks and necromancers, etc. That's enough. I think that's enough examples for myself. Massive undead. I think that's how you spell that. I don't really care. Honestly, I have no idea. This knows. Hooray! Thanks, Google Docs. He's a massive undead Aarakocra. Resembles a vulture and appears at the site of great battles or where death is in high supply. So this guy I have used in the past. He shows up whenever there's a bunch of bodies. He's kind of like, is sort of reminiscent of the Harvestman. He is highly mobile. He is not hostile. You couldn't kill him really if you tried. He's a semi-intangible, literal embodiment of rot. And all he does is show up where there's bodies to be found, and he collects them, strips them of their worldly possessions, and carries their souls off. He is my version of the Raven Queen, for anybody following along with how the things are playing out here. He's one of the few deities that is tangible. You can go talk to this guy. He's just walking around. And he can help protect you from being out there. But similar to the Harvestman, he has a price. You want to do a thing, you want to know something, you better have something that he wants. The Architect of Woe, on the other hand, is the patron of Fiend, Warlocks. Can't type. I don't know why I'm doing a typing thing. I should just have text-to-speech on. That'll just catch all my rambling. So this is like, these are your Fiend Warlocks. What else is like really sad and nasty? These would be like, what's the like Avenger Paladins? I don't remember what those are. I'm just making up subclasses now. That's where we're at. I talk for an hour and 40 minutes, and suddenly I'm inventing Avenger Paladins. A Conqueror Paladin. Kind of. The Conqueror Paladins fill in very nicely up here. I'm trying to think of the... There's a literal... I don't know why I'm guessing. I have a player's handbook. It's like right here. I just need to go get it. I'm being lazy is what I'm doing. Alright. Player's handbook. Vengeance Paladin? Yeah, that's the one. The one that everybody's always like, oh, Batman would be a Vengeance Paladin. He is also highly involved reanimation and maintenance of revenants. So this dude, yeah. See, everybody's got it. I invented one. I'm like, yeah, it's the Oath of the Avengers. Yeah, it's Tony Stark. Tony Stark is my patron. What else do I need? I can't remember the name of the thing. We're gonna dig through here. Feel free to throw out things that you think would fit, by the way. Because I'm just using a normal player's handbook, so I'm just starting there. So Nipsey's previous form? Kinda, if you want to think of it that way. That would be the Architect of Rot, yeah. He's like eerily similar to Caduceus, actually. But way less, like, fun. He's very much like, yep, this is the job. Gotta take you. Sorry. What was the... There we go. Yeah, no, it literally is. It's just that. When's that Oath of Avengers homebrew dropping? Yeah, my patron for the Oath of the Avenger is Captain America. So I use my class ability and I throw my shield 90 feet and it can bounce 8 times for 2d10 damage. They're like, wow, great. Oath of Devotion. Yes. Oath of the Ancients. That's a good one. Oath of the Ancients is allowed down south, but not up north. Wow, there's only like 3 in the player's handbook, so carry on. Boom. Okay, whatever. Monks. Way of Shadow Monks. And again, not everybody has to have a patron. You do not have to. But it's kind of a case of like in a world where the like gods and otherworldly beings can be contacted pretty much on the daily. Why wouldn't you want somebody watching out for you, you know? Shadow Monks, Shadow Sorcerers, very good. And also Bard College of Whispers. So this dude, Way of the Sun Soul. Way of the Sun Soul, you could, it would depend on if you had a patron, who it was. Because everybody knows that like you can use your key to do remarkable things. Everybody has seen Refusul in action. And while nobody knows like what his purpose was, he was helpful. I'm gonna make you run this game because now I'm very excited. Dude, that's great. Yo, Mikey, have fun. Leo, if you're still here, good luck in your gym battle. Godspeed. But yeah, Way of the Sun Soul you could pass on either side. It just depends if you have a deity who it is. Like if you follow like Pelor, you're welcome down south. But if you go up north, people might be like, I don't know. Yeah, no, I know magician. It's if you follow a patron, who it is. Because your key stuff can do remarkable things. Monks are respected everywhere, but they're not really like trusted. Monks tend to keep to themselves. So again, it just depends. Like you could be a ranger that follows Melora. You could be a barbarian that follows like the Stormlord or whatever. I've been watching Critical Role Campaign 2. Those are the only gods that are on the mind right now. But yeah, you could be a barbarian that follows Pelor. You're not necessarily going to get any benefit to it, but it tells people immediately where you stand in the war. So certain deities up north will get you hanged, and certain deities up north will get you indoors. So there may be a benefit to a player character carrying around multiple holy symbols that's capable of like a little bit of divine magic being part of an infiltration squad that goes north. But there's also the capability for the birthright players, the overarching teams, because those are the real players of the game, but we just get to play D&D on a micro level, where they're playing macro level. They might get information out of your spy mission that you do. So if you roll up a bunch of rogues and you go, okay, we're going to go break into House Andromeda and go steal like a flying carpet because we want one. And you send your, third and fourth level rogues in, and you get caught, whoever's running House Andromeda gets information out of you. And they get to know what your mission was, who you were traveling with, who you reported to, how you got here. And they might twist that on you and either ambush you the next time you try to do something, or they might launch an assault on the woods, which is bad news. But you might get out completely undetected, and then the birthright players are left to wonder who stole from them. And it might be no one. Because if it's the Shadow's hands, it might be no one. It might be someone. They don't know. But that's the idea, is they might try to forge an alliance, or like House Andromeda and House Halcyon might on the side meet up. Not that these are, I'm just giving examples because these aren't available for the birthright players. So these dudes might not be able to kind of squat up. But if in a similar situation, you could work to overthrow that larger house on a macro level. So you might look to hire an adventuring group and send them in and weaken that bigger power, convince them that it was the Shadow's hands, have them march some of their forces down so that you outnumber, or at least outmatch, and then you can make a power play. Hello, PCM.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome to the world building stream. I'll have every holy symbol, please. Yeah, I should really. That's something I should do, but I don't have my DMG here. So, actually, I might. Hold tight. I think it's at the studio. Ah. Bam. I think it's in here anyway. Haha. Yes, PCM. Hello. We're doing a bit of world building. It's a fun thing to do. We're gonna go to page 293, everyone. If you're following along, I'm just kidding. There will not be a test. I'm gonna flip to because I need to fill this in. We need a pantheon, and I need to decide like sooner than later what's okay and what's not. We are not. For the record, I'm using Melora as a filler name because that is not the pantheon that we're using. Not for this. But, which is why all these names are subject to change. These are just things that again, 2 a.m., I'm taking some shortcuts. Boop, boop, doo. Me. All right. Well, we might have to do. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of legwork later, but basically, if you're attempting to follow along, I'm going to, because I've been. I neglected to mention the most important thing. This campaign, because the origin for Ragnarok is I wanted to run D&D in like primordial dinosaur times, and then I changed my mind and pivoted last second and put like cities and towns in. This is gonna be I'm gonna get two birds stoned at once, as nobody says. This is gonna be a Greek setting because your boy likes Greek mythology. So replace like all of these instances with Greek names and it'll make sense. I know these are Roman, but it's fine. Don't overthink it. It's okay. It's fine. We will be using a Greek pantheon. There will be Greek architecture everywhere. Lots of Greek stylings. These guys effectively have like hoplites and chariots. That's why like these guys have oracles and things like that. These are when the Viking player is crushed. No, Devin. The north is Greek lands. The south is all over the board. You might have a dozen different names for the same god. In the same way that when the Romans come in, they go, no, like you can still worship like Zeus. You just have to, you just have to call him Jupiter and stuff like that. When they're doing that kind of conversion, that's basically what the Shadow's hands do. They just attribute it to cultural differences. So when you pop in and you go, oh man, Apollo, great dude, god of the sun, love it. Somebody might come in and be like, yeah, that's, I don't even know. I prepped this in advance, okay? It's fine. That's Odur, Norse god of the sun. That's basically what I'm getting at. If you're up here, it's very Greco-Roman stylings because D&D is a mishmash of things. But where these guys would worship Zeus, you would worship Thor. And while their symbols would be different, because different holy symbols from different cultures, they would have an understanding. There's like a basic. It's everybody. All the guards are gonna have a little handbook that just say like, oh yeah, if somebody talks about this, we're really talking about this. It's gonna be kind of like that. So, Greece, baby. So yeah, basically, if you're a ranger that wants free passage through the heart of the Wild Mother, which is a name that I promise you is going to be changed at some point, you probably would follow somebody like Artemis. Like that's what I'm getting at. If you're like an arcane archer for some reason, sorry to throw like an unnecessary amount of shade at the arcane archer, but you would have like arrows blessed by Artemis herself that would strike true and do special stuff. Is having Primordial and the Auron and others? Oh, for like languages? Yeah, languages will work how they normally do. But there are two different common tongues. So you either speak Northern Common or Southern Common. This is basically like Undercommon. It's close. It's if you were speaking Latin to somebody that speaks Greek. It's pretty close. Or any of the Romance languages. You can translate pretty easily, but immediate conversation is difficult, but it's not impossible. Because these guys are way. No, that you were comparing the different cultures. Yeah. No, yeah, that's. I think we're on the same page in different books. Devin with the Twitch Prime, baby. Twitch Prime, 7 months Twitch Prime, baby. Thank you, my guy. Yeah, Latin and Greek have different alphabets. Exactly. Yeah, like you could translate it given enough time, and you would get the gist of what somebody's saying. But it's like they have two different common tongues. Hey, boo. Let's see. PCM. So that's who I share a name with. Oh yeah, if your name is Devin, then yes. Professor Twig is Devin from our D&D show. Multiple of them at this point. Okay, so here is that. We need... Boop. And to put it in perspective, the Architect of Rot, the traditional name would be Hades for you. You would be walking around, I don't know why I say you, like it's... Hades would just be walking around, collecting the souls of the dead and ferrying them away. In a more, like, traditional sense. So I'm even gonna... I'll write it in my old notes so it's easy to find. This would be Hades. We need... Where's my... this is technically... That's technically kind of Ares. That's about as close as you'll get. No, you know what? I've changed my mind. This is... Hecate, or Hecate, or Hecate. I don't know. I gotta brush up on my pronunciation, okay? I promise I'll do it. Someday. That'd be this person. This is who they would attribute to your arcane infections being a part of. It's not that they hate you for having arcane powers. They are just like, we should fix you. Because, she's got a hold of you. Where if you go north, they're all about it. These guys love Hecate. Hecate? Yeah, I gotta brush up on Greek pronunciation. I'm gonna be honest, I've been doing too much learning of German to put my brain back in there. You need to pick up Hades again to refresh your mythology? Yeah, maybe. Honestly, that's not a bad stream game. Someday soon, perhaps we'll play Hades and chat about it. Let's see. Hecate. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look it up and figure it out. A lot of these words are names that you read in the myths and you never hear them said aloud, so you just kind of guess. It's like every Pokemon name I've ever pronounced, including the word Pokemon. You just read it. And then you're like, okay, cool, I guess that's how you say it. And then you say it out loud and somebody's like, no, dum-dum. No, it is said like this. And we need to change Speaker of Ioun to the Speaker of Athena. And you were once a High Cleric of Artemis. And you, if following this conversion, would obviously just be Zeus. Or... that doesn't really work. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I have changed my mind. You are this. Is this something you're going to bring up with the squad anytime soon? Friday. I'm going to pitch it. Pitch it to the gang shortly, but just to get them thinking about it. Because the problem is I pitched them a Birthright game like 6 years ago. And it never worked. It never happened. But they made cities for it. So I have their cities, but the only like real rub to it is the traditional crew can't be the Birthright team. Because the Birthright team can't be a member of the party that's going out at adventuring. So I would want you guys to be able to play on either side. And what I might do, if you guys can't decide, we'll talk about it on Friday. I have no idea. I'm talking about this like this is going to be a thing. And it probably won't be. I have no idea. I would love to do this, but I don't know. This has been my pet project in the back of my brain for 5 or 6 years now. I've been thinking about this big, like, Grecian army conflict I wanted to have between a Greek series of city-states, aka a big old kingdom, and taking, like, guerrilla warfare stuff over there. Yeah, I'll make it a thing. I'll force Jordan to play, and by doing that, make Ben play. Exactly. Because I already know... My dad was like, let me know when I can play. Like, he's like, I want to be a part of it. So I was like, okay. And he goes, can I be Referswheel again? And I went, we'll talk about it. Because I really want him to try something different if he gets to play again. So you only started a few days ago? Oh, yeah. No, I wrote all of this down last night. And some of it today. So a lot of world building that I do is in here. This is when it started. This is the first campaign I ever ran years and years and years ago. And if I run this, I'm going to run it out of a book like this because nostalgia is powerful. And I love these little moleskin books for just writing campaign notes in there. They're incredibly inspirational and helpful. And I very much prefer paper notes to Google Docs. Because if I write it down, I'll remember it better than if I type it. If I type it, I got to read it over and over and over again. And we need to... I'll workshop names and stuff if it comes down to it. But for now, I'm not going to change any of the like big names. And anything I write down from here on out will have the Greek deities opened up. What is it? Ranger folk? Sure. So Shadow Sorcerers. I'm going to pitch you my character as well tomorrow. Oh, dude, by all means. So yeah, that's the tech level that we're going for. When I say there's like an artificer, what I mean is you're somewhere in the realm of like, you're like Archimedes or something, you know. You have a very, by modern standards, rudimentary, by historic standards, like incredibly advanced idea of how things work, but you're not going to be going around inventing like a crossbow. That's still beyond, that's well beyond the technology. You're going to, like, the folks in the woods are going to be using spears, occasionally bow and arrow. little bits of magic here and there, but on the whole, you're going to have, like, swords and daggers and shields. Because rangers and druids are rare. They don't have a lot of them. A lot of them got wiped out in Ragnarok. You want to pitch a character? This is so cool. Hey, I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I am open to NPC suggestions down the line. Because we did a couple fun shout-outs in Ragnarok, but again, I don't want you guys to, like, get your hopes up for this. Because right now, this is just my world-building process. It's incredibly ADD. It's all over the place. It makes no sense. Sometimes. So I need an Archfey. And I am between 2 for the Archfey. And right now they are not going to be an architect of anything because I need to come up with a fun name for it. So this is going to be an Archfey for Warlock patrons because I don't ever exclude anything. If you can find it in this book, you can find it in my setting. It is there. If you find it on Unearthed Arcana, I'm a little more welcoming to it. If you find it on some D&D homebrew website, I'm gonna tell you maybe later. Because if you can't understand your class and you have a question about it and I've never seen it before and you're like, I'm playing a Super Saiyan, I don't want to deal with that. That's too much headache. The Archfey, you're gonna be Dionysus is one of them. It'd be one of them. And these are the deities that you'll find either in the Arcane Deadlands or just walking around in the Wildwood, which is the colloquial name for the Heart of the Wild Mother. That's going to lead to a continuity error. Yeah, there are many Archfey. And they are not all created equal. You might also find one in something like Pan, the satyr god of nature, who just wants to be out there having a good time, having a party, forever, dancing about. A lot of what you'll find if you stray far from the path and you're not with a druid or a ranger and you don't know the Wildwood well, you're going to find, like, enchantment circles and get stuck and enchanted and potentially killed. There are, like, hags that live out there that are allies to the folks that live there. And in exchange, they just get to experiment on the people that the Wildwood catches. So, you know, if you're on the side of the north, tread lightly going into battle. Loki would be a sick Archfey, dude. Who was the goddess of love? That would be Aphrodite. She is going to be glamour or enchantment is going to be Aphrodite. She's not necessarily an Archfey, no. She would be more a she's definitely more of a patron than, or not like a patron deity rather than like a warlock patron. She is all for bardic enchantments, College of Glamour, love in general. That's her shtick. But she's not necessarily like gonna manipulate you to do a thing unless somebody really hates you and has good pull with her. Then she'll just ruin your life. Because Archfays they're fickle. An Archfey, they want what they want in the moment, which kind of plays into the lust element of Aphrodite. But Aphrodite you got to think of as a much broader scale of she can destroy nations. She can basically, you know, you break the king's heart, you take his queen away, she falls in love with someone else. That's powerful stuff. That's big. You're gonna ruin that guy. You know, which is exactly why there's super high level casters. Yeah, just look at the Trojan War. That literally all started as a contest between a bunch of very jealous goddesses, trying to determine who's the most beautiful. Yeah, Devin's right on there. Look at Achilles and the Trojan War. Exactly. Bang on the money. What else do we need? What have we not covered? We have like fiend warlocks. You know what? I've changed my mind. I need a more ancient. I need something more ancient than this. This doesn't work for this. I don't know what I want, but I need to. Hold tight, gang. Your boy's got to do a quick Google. Here we go. This is what I want. Nix. And we're gonna cut. This. I need a better fiend. Because admittedly, my knowledge of the chthonic gods is lacking. There we go. Thanatos. That's the name I'm looking for. Thank you. Boop. Be the god of death. And I'm gonna twist that. I'm gonna take a very loose interpretation of that and spread that to vengeance and like suffering. I'm gonna take some liberties. He's the personification of death, but this is like brutal death. Obviously, I mean, war is easy. I almost don't have to write it down, but I'm gonna. If you're a war domain cleric, if you're a particularly religious fighter, if you are a battle master, you probably follow Athena. She's well known for strategy, etc. And also, like, tactical war, and not just, war for the sake of war. Good evening. Good evening, Gondian. Good evening. Welcome. We are doing a little bit of world building. Right now, I'm on a bit of a Pantheon kick for a D&D game I hope to run someday. And we're taking some extreme artistic liberty with the Pantheons for the moment. Messengers and spies would be Hermes. And also College of Whispers. I'm going to move to here. Knowledge domain clerics and bards. Very good. That is also a very good one, Mr. Tronic. Well done. I need... This is Apollo. Yeah, I would say Apollo or Athena, depending. You would likely need to follow both. There is what's the... God, I was literally just looking at this. Taiki. That would be the trickery domain. I do have to account for time magic now, thanks to all the new things that have come out. So, Chronos could technically be there, because there are... I am going to have to distinguish between like the old gods and the new, as everyone in Game of Thrones does. Under the old gods and the new. That is a thing. That is a thing now. Because there are the like pre-Ragnarok gods, which would be your Titans, and you have post-Ragnarok gods. And their explanation for Ragnarok is a war between the gods. Because who else could do that? Man may have caused it and also prevented it from getting worse, but that's what happens when you invoke the power of your gods, and that's why these guys don't like divine magic. Because we have the chthonic gods and we have the Olympians. There are so many. Where would Poseidon fit? Poseidon would be storms and tempests. But also, I gotta really like spread this one pretty thin. This would be Artemis, Pan, and Poseidon. Because I don't know how many of you will know this, but Poseidon is also traditionally responsible for like earthquakes and the bounty of the sea, is because they believe like if you can push the sea hard enough, you can quake the earth. So that's a thing. That's a thing now to keep an eye on. Getting some basic skeleton and flavor elements started before you get into the nitty gritty. Dude, there's no better way to do it, Gandhian. Oh my goodness. This is fun. I should do another one of these. We probably will, honestly. Especially if this ends up getting to become a thing. We might make this a more regular dealio. An elemental? Yeah. I mean, if you're... I'm just gonna lump druids in here. If you're a druid, you probably follow at least one of these three. Artemis being the primary deity of like rangers and scout rogues and some nature clerics, but basically if you're a hunter of any kind. You started with the Pantheon. Did you start wrong? I don't think there's a wrong way to start. I don't think you can start wrong, because you got to do it all eventually. But if you start with a Pantheon, then you know how to form your cities and how people see things. Gandhian's exactly right, dude. Dead on the money. There's no wrong way to start. You just have to start. You just have to do it. So start with what inspires you. If you're inspired to make a Pantheon first, make a Pantheon first. If you're like me and you want to retrofit stuff that you already have to an existing Pantheon, it's a little bit of headache, but it's doable. I've tried before, by the way, to like make a full Pantheon from scratch, and it is a nightmare to do. So if you can do that, I fully respect you. I tend to just lean on stuff that's already there. I take shorthands. Your Pantheon may change based on region and race. Spiderlich is right. It's probably Spiderlich, but Spiderlich is much more fun to say. Also, hello, Spiderlich. Hello, hello. We got a lot of first-time chat, folks. This is exciting. I'm glad people are having a good time with the world building. This is good. Try to use a 3 pillars method I heard somewhere. Religion, magic, and technology. Since how you spin the dial on one aspect influences the other two. Beautiful. Love it. Very, very good. Yes. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I almost always have some conflict because it's an easy fallback, but also because the players can understand it quickly is there's always a conflict between nature and civilization. It's super easy to slot into any world, and the players will understand it immediately. So if they don't want to engage with all the stuff on this document, if they don't care at all and they just want to play D&D, they can, and it's super easy to understand. Because if you're on this side, then these are your enemies. And if you're on this side, these are your enemies. You know what you're getting into. Spiderlich, thank you for the follow, my friend. Welcome aboard. Welcome, welcome. Oh, Gandhian, thank you for the follow as well. Oh my goodness. Our little family is growing so nicely. I'm so delighted to have you all here. This is so cool. This is awesome. Okay. So let's see. What else do we need to... Oh my goodness. PCM, thank you for the follow. Oh my goodness. It's growing. It's growing. What other things do we need? We have storms, basically just nature. Although that's a fair point. Outside of things like earthquakes and potentially rainfall, if you really want to stretch the line thin, there's probably not a lot of like open Poseidon worship, because none of these places are coastal. This is going to be a very landlocked setting. Ooh. I mean, that one's just easy, but... I saw Magician type out Phoebe's, and I was like, Phobos, god of fear. There it is. Maybe Phoebe's the goddess of fear. Oh my god. I hadn't even thought about that. Well, there goes Captain Perseus Blackwater Jr. Isn't the west side of Laris coastal? No. No, the west side of the Laris region is landlocked. It ends with a expansive plains to the southwest of Ambercrag, and then is trees to the north, as far as the map shows. There is water relatively close to Green Gate, but Green Gate is by no means like a port city. It's still like tens of miles away. Because Green Gate is in, far, far in. But yeah, there's not a lot of water, at least I should say, there's not a lot of water from the south. But up north, the further up you go, there will be like port cities and trade cities. But Alluvia's river end on the east, it starts to the north, runs through Fola. Because Alluvia is also mostly landlocked. There's like small rivers and streams, but yeah, the primary shipping lane runs through Fola. That's where all the money is. Certain races could be Poseidon worshippers. Totally correct. Tritons, literally, it's in the name. They would love that. Ooh, yeah, I second PCM's question mark, Gandhi, and I'm unfamiliar with the term. Please enlighten us. This is so exciting. Oh my goodness. Hot is active, energetic, and passionate. Cold is passive, orderly, and introspective. Has no effect on appearance. It's mostly used for determining pairings when it's time to get down to making more gods. Strong moiety means the god is more likely to be of one significance and worshipped more widely, and weak is the opposite. Oh. Well, hey, now we can say that we've learned something. That was fascinating. Thank you for sharing. What the heck else do we need? What other subclass is not represented? I'm thinking of the more traditional stuff. I'm not going to worry too much about anything homebrew until we have to. Oh god, there's Tasha's Cauldron of Everything stuff too. There's like the Way of Mercy monk. Oath of Redemption paladins. Yikes. farms in the hearth. That's, you know what? Yeah, we have farms and harvest. Hearth would be Hera, because she's like marriage and unions and intelligence, etc. Wizards follow Hecate, because she's the goddess of magic. And I did that backwards. And I did this one backwards too. So we're gonna... There we go. Spin that around. Glamour involves the arts, right? And don't forget College of Creation Bards. Dude, I don't even know what the heck that is. What on earth? And we're gonna loosely include Zeus on there. I am imagining most folks up north just follow Zeus on a very loose basis, as that is the house religion of House Carnelia. Like, that's what they follow. They worship Zeus. This, our high elf diviner here, is literally a dude who talks to Athena on like a daily basis. Muses would fall under Aphrodite. The muses technically are their own like independent dealio, if I recall correctly. They find people that are creative, that are storytellers. They would traditionally be a bard in that sense. Oh, we do have a god of the forge and crafting, but I always forget to write them down because I wrote them crafting. It's Hephaestus, because he is literally the god of the forge. So that one's nice and easy. But yeah, the muses usually would just inspire somebody who is creating something. They would come visit you. You would have a muse that would help you along, give you that nudge. But yeah, any of the major smithies or artificers would probably follow Hephaestus. He's a neutral deity. You will find him anywhere somebody's crafting something. He's not outlawed anywhere, because even a basic crafter in the woods would probably look to Hephaestus to be like, yo, please help me make this arrow not just like shatter on impact. Medicine and fertility. Yeah, I mean, fertility a little bit with Aphrodite and Hera. She's somewhere in between. That's sort of in the hearth. The marriage, etc. I shouldn't belittle that. That's kind of like a pretty common spot of things. Metasice, yes, of course. I'm a very good typing. I am very good type. Medicine, and I'm gonna open that up to medicine, and good golly, I can't type right now. That's Apollo. His domain traditionally spans over healing as well. So it's worth noting, healing clerics. Healing clerics follow Apollo. That's what they do. So we need to write that up here. Followers of Apollo, Athena, and Zeus. So there's probably like 3 really big churches. So we've learned something about House Carnelia just now. They probably have 3 large churches, the largest of which would be to Zeus, because that's the god of gods. Obviously, if you worship Zeus, you kind of have sway with everybody. Apollo can go into the bard as well. Yeah, that's true. Apollo's got like 5 or 10, I don't know. He's there like 30 different dealios. And magician, that's good. The idea is that you're gonna find these gods everywhere. You might worship the same god for completely different reasons. Is there one deity more specific to shape changers or werebeasts? That would be Nyx, the goddess of night. I'll throw that in there because that's not the first time that's come up in at this point, a player character better be playing a werewolf on the northern side, or I'm going to be sad. I need that storyline now. They would follow Nyx, because being the goddess of night, they would basically be praying to just make it through the night without harming anyone. That's probably something they would do. College of Creation Bards can kind of just make things, and at 6th level can animate objects from what you remember. So that sounds very similar to Artificers. I would stick them probably under somewhere between Apollo and Hephaestus. Again, the idea for this setting is that most people will have at least 2, maybe 3 patron deities. Because you pray to different gods for different reasons. You don't necessarily get locked into one. So if you're a high-level cleric up top, you follow at least one of these 3. Anything else, as long as it's not outlawed, you follow. You can do whatever you want. You might be a Forge cleric from House Carnelia, and you pray to all 3 of these guys and Hephaestus. You might have 4. You might have 4 holy symbols that are just splotched all over you. You might. The point of this world is it just survived an apocalypse event, so they are praying to anybody who will listen. Love the idea of multiple deities having overlapping portfolios. Oh yeah. No, this whole list right here is going to change and get added to and deleted, and it's going to be great. Do these gods go for both north and south, or is it completely different? They do. They go for north or south, I will say. And we will have to figure out as time goes on. We're almost certainly going to do another one of these, because this has been really fun. But we will continue to add to these, and then I'm going to figure out who worships who and why. So Apollo might be worshipped for knowledge in the north, and medicine in the south, and science in the north, and like his prowess with a bow, or the passing of the sun to nourish the lands that grow the wildwood. You would worship Apollo for that. So you might see Apollo on both sides of the border for overlapping reasons. They might be completely different cultural choices. Bards would normally pray to a god or goddess of entertainment or luck. That is our friend right here. This is trickery and fortune, actually, I should say. Yeah, they would do whoopsie day. I'm going to do this. There we go. Some of chat was getting cut off, and I felt so bad because you guys have some great thoughts, and I don't want to. There we go. I think that's a little better. I can actually edit this stuff on the fly right now. I'm not playing XCOM. I have to tab out and brick the computer. Okay, so time, fear, dreams. I think we could do probably an entire stream on magic items and relics in the Deadlands. We might do a whole stream on that. We might just do 2 hours someday. I don't know. So I'm not going to worry too much about that, because that would be kind of fun to come up with. I'll have to I'll bring my DM's guide back after session tomorrow, and then I'll have that for a future thing. Clairvoyance is within time. They basically, rather than clairvoyance, it's these lads. These guys basically just burn a bunch of incense, get super blasted on whatever herbs and spices they can find. I don't know why I said herbs and spices like they're a chicken nugget at KFC, but basically they burn all these herbs and they trip out and they have out-of-body experiences. And you would have an oracle to any of the gods. It's basically like commune, the spell commune. You would pray to your deity, get absolutely blitzed, and then yeah. Yes, Austin, welcome back. We are currently talking about divination and prophecy, aka mushrooms, among other things. So shout out to Nipsey, the patron deity of diviners from henceforth and forever longer. Oh man. Would anyone be praying to Aphrodite? I have no idea if any class or specific area of the world would be paying attention to her. That's probably on an individual basis. That's if you are, to to dance around Twitch TOS. Like if you're looking to start a family or find love, then yeah, absolutely you would pray to Aphrodite. But that's on a also like enchantment wizards, things that focus on altering someone's state of mind. You would be looking at that. Certain potions or poisons. So if you're an alchemist, you might have some sway with Aphrodite. Not a ton, but there might be some overlap in there. Is Nipsey an avatar of the Architect of Rot? I don't know. I have no idea. Because this thing existed way before we ever did Boarding Party. Which deity would have the peace domain? I believe, if my Age of Mythology dealio is correct, it should be Hermes, aka Hermes. But I do need a peace domain, don't I? I do. So we should figure that out. I mean, Hera a bit, because she's like civilized intelligence, etc. Much as I'd like to stay for more world building techniques, you're afraid you gotta go? Hey, PCM, dude, thanks for swinging by. I've appreciated all of your contributions. I hope to see you in a future stream. It's been great. Hestia, you're very, very correct. That's another good one. Whoops, daisies. Pardon me for not making you capitalized. Athena as well for peace. That is a fair point. Because she would be more on the she's kind of like also order would be Athena. Very much in the strategy and planning phase of like running a civilization. She's also one of the more like involved goddesses. You can get a hold of her pretty easily. Apollo would be a good fit for that because traditionally he's the god of the sun, music, poetry, art. Apollo literally can fit in like every single thing. It's so awkward. Oh man. This is also yeah, if you're a Circle of Dreams druid, you're probably with Hypnos. I would say I'm gonna throw that in there. Don't get your head all twisted. The easiest time to get at somebody is in a dream, so that would be where Aphrodite would mess with you. I forgot about light domain. That's a very good point. I don't think I've ever seen anybody run the light domain, but I gotta have it in there. Light and life domain I tend to overlook, even though they're like two of the most important ones. Light would definitely. I'm just gonna say Apollo. You're the Apollo. LOL. That's good. Life. I'm gonna throw. Persephone, Hera, and freaking Apollo he's everywhere, man. He's everywhere. He's dang all everywhere. That just kind of falls in with like medicine. But yeah, Persephone being the goddess of like harvests and loosely nature, just kind of in a broad sense. Yeah. Bringing life, creating life. If I pray hard enough to Aphrodite, can I get Apollo to fall in love with someone? Which would almost always condemn them to death. Are we forgetting an old god or a new god? I don't know. We're probably missing a lot. There's so many domains these days. I do very much think we need... And we will invent these if we have to. I need someone for redemption and someone for corruption. And I think I'm going to twist this a bit and throw Ares in there. You say the word and I can help build subclasses or the classes in general. Heck yeah, baby. Heck yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think you've sold me because you've used my own terminology against me. I'm sold. Hecate is the goddess of corruption and also the goddess of magic. So if you're in the south, Hecate is not an appreciated deity. If you're in the north, you're like, oh my goodness, she's blessed you with her powers. But if you're down south and you come back as a sorcerer to Hecate, they're like, oh no, we need to fix you before her corruption gets any stronger. And whether or not that's true, that's how they see you. So I think I'm sold on that. And I need to figure out which of the many nature gods and goddesses are my version of Melora, and I think it's going to be Demeter or Persephone. Gaia's a good one as well, but because that would be like an older god. That would be like a forgotten pantheon god that you would come across. I'm gonna say redemption is Gaia. If you're fully lost and you're looking to make your way back into the world, sometimes you need a chaotic rebirth, and Gaia would help you with that. So we're gonna twist this. And for my own personal notes, I'm gonna call this Gaia's Cradle, which is a Magic the Gathering card that's like way, way expensive. But I'm gonna throw that in there so that I don't forget that these folks worship Gaia, which is basically sacrilege if you're up north. They're like, how could you possibly support chaotic growth? And they're like, because it keeps you away from us. So Gaia, we're going to say, is redemption. And chaos and rebirth. We're gonna twist the pantheons a little bit as much as we need to. We're gonna do stuff like this. Soteria, the god of safety, salvation, deliverance, and preservation from harm. Redemption falls into that. That is pretty cool. I'm gonna throw that down, and I'll do a little bit of side research on that. Eros as well for love and lust. That is true. Lil Cupid, bruh. Lil Cupid. Because I want here. You guys are gonna get another look into why I didn't put pantheons in the boarding party game, other than because it didn't really make sense to. I tend to have 3 pantheons. I have old gods, new gods, and minor gods. So I'm gonna have to split these down even further, which is just more work. But honestly, it's fine. Prometheus is also good for chaos and rebirth. I'm gonna say those are 2 of the sort of more forgotten ones. So Solteria's OSHA. Yes, Kazray. I agree. It's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration for anybody outside of the continental United States. Although I don't know, they might be international. I have no clue. I'm talking out of thin air. I have no idea. Let's see. I mean, obviously another easy one, but just fire. But you know what? No. I don't typically do gods for primal forces. So like fire or anything that would get lumped in with something else. That's probably like Hephaestus. If you're in that spot, like you're kind of stuck. The Workers' Safety and Insurance Board, you have the Wasabi. Echidna is the mother of monsters. It could be a darker twist on the nature god and the goddess of Pokemon. That could be pretty fun. Dolos is also a great fit for corruption, as they are the god of cunning, deception, craftiness, and treachery. Ooh, I do love a god of treachery. You know what? Give me a god of treachery. You've used the magical keyword. I do love the word treachery right now. I think it's great. And again, I think what I'm gonna do is maybe in the next stream, maybe the one after. I don't know. We're gonna just figure this out together. We're gonna break these down into old gods, new gods, and minor gods. And things like Dolos for treachery are gonna fall under like an overarching thing of like secrecy or luck, fortune, and then that might fall below like the Titan gods. Glad I could bring my completely random knowledge of Greek mythology. I'm very glad that you're all here, because this is amazing. You're saving me a lot of extra Googlings. No more Googlings. Interestingly enough, Taiki, being a god of fortune, kind of falls below Hades as well, because Hades is also very well known for the riches of the earth. Just trying my best to ask questions as you know nothing about mythology. No, magician. I encourage and very much welcome any and all questionings for these streams, because you make me come up with an answer for things, which is great. Which is great stuff. It's good to know these things. Nike, the goddess of sport. I mean, she's also the goddess of victory, so you do need a good goddess of victory. Somebody that a fighter would pray to would be Nike. Just throw something like that out. Your buddy's gaming world also has a great church that offers a broad devotion to a group of gods. That's kind of what House Carnalia is turning into. Apollo, Athena, and Zeus. They kind of make this perfect union of civilization. Nike's a big deal for a super civilized kingdom. Yeah, you gotta be. I think Dolos may be a better fit for a god of trickery, and split fortune off onto its own and leave that to Taiki. Taiki's not really a tricksy goddess. No, that's just what the PHB has her in. We're doing a lot of shorthand for now, and we'll do some deep dives later. But for now, I need it to be a wide array, because if somebody's looking for a god of fortune or trickery and they've never heard of Taiki, I don't want to confuse them. Because again, the whole point of doing all of this work right now is so I can boil it down to like a page and a half and give it to the players before we start. Which is something I didn't do for the boarding party game, and I kind of regret it, because I feel like it would have informed character decisions early on. But you learn something every time you run a game. But I wanna give them a cheat sheet of what they would know based on where their allegiances lie. So I would give them the gods and goddesses to know based on what they do. The Hermes is also very good for luck. So I'm going to change this from trickery, because trickery is the domain. And I started out by writing the domains and then just completely gave up on that. I'm going to change this to luck and fortune. And I'm going to say this is also Hermes. Yeah, and they are kids. So that's another reason I didn't really do it. But I would still, like, if I could go back and start it again, I would have. I would have told them, like, yeah, these are things that you know. But I also didn't want to overwhelm them. They were new players. I didn't want to like freak them out and be like, I have reading to do. I don't want to do this. Be like, nah, you're here to play a game. Just ask me if you forget stuff. I got you. No, thank you, Nunez. No. I don't want to buy followers, thank you. I'm quite content. Get that out of here. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't want to buy followers. I like our small, close-knit group of like-minded individuals. I quite like it. Quality over quantity. Dude, exactly. No, I don't want to replace you guys with chatbots. That would be terribly boring. Chatbots don't feed into my ridiculous notions of world building. Let me let's clean this up. Take that down to just one page. We're gonna buff this up. So okay, so what else do we need to know more about? We need to flesh out this. I need actual rules and regulations, things that the players will and will not be able to do. I need more organizations with these guys. Obviously, we could do like 3 streams on all of these dudes. Like this is fine. But I wanna write down. We'll probably go for like 10 more minutes. But I wanna spend that time figuring out what other streams could be. Magic items and holy relics. Towns and cities. Really hammer in the Pantheon. Figure out what's where. Oh yeah, magic items are going to be really fun. Oh, I agree. That's why I want to do like a whole stream of just like let's invent magic items together, because I think that'll be really fun. I'm gonna bring all of my D&D books, save for like 2 or 3. The ones I need for Arpeggio are at the studio. So when we film tomorrow, I'm gonna go get them and bring them here, so that next time I stream, if we do magic items, I have them, and then they're also here because I don't need magic items for boarding party. Because they don't really get traditional magic items. They get things like charcoal, which would ordinarily be maybe a spell component. I'm not gonna call it Gaia's Cradle, but that's my shorthand for it. That's the imagery I'm looking to invoke. That's what that is. But also the Wildwood is it's kind of basic, you know. You say that, then one day Phoebe's casting fireballs. Maybe someday. Who knows? So you know what I'm going to say? The Court of Roses, at least, the Court of Roses needs to come after Towns and Cities, because I need to build this. I need to build the city that each of the 3 houses would be in order to make those. So we need to make a massive city and then 2 large cities. And then from there we'll do like a big drill down, probably over a couple streams. But yeah, I don't know. This might be like really fun to do for the next couple weeks. And then I might just occasionally sneak in like XCOM and Unite and stuff. But I'm trying to strike while the iron's hot, because the inspiration is there and it's fun. And I thoroughly enjoy stuff like this. So, what else do we need? What else is necessary? We need to figure out the Shadow's Hands. And all these names are subject to change, you know. I don't know. No, I'm gonna take that and bump it under. That one will be held under This stream's going to be big. It's going to be taking this and then making the Pantheon in an Excel sheet and making the gods' portfolios, their minor gods, breaking it down into really itty-bitty chunks and getting very specific. And then determining where worship of them is legal. And I'm using the term legal in a very loose sense of like, where is it allowed? Because down south, there are no laws. There's no sheriff that's going to come arrest you. Everybody handles their conflicts interpersonally. The names of their priests, holy warriors, exactly. We're going to need... So here's the fun part. Is one of the Pantheon streams is going to be this, and the other one is going to be like demigods and their myths. Because if there are gods and they're working in the traditional Greek sense, then some of the players on both sides might be the children of these gods. You might be playing a demigod. One of your starting magic item might be one of Poseidon's tridents, and you're like trying to make a name for himself and you in a landlocked region. Arcane Deadlands, I'm gonna put magic items in there, and I'm just gonna retype it. This is gonna be magic items and relics, and the Gaia's Cradle is gonna have the relics of the divine temples to forgotten gods, etc. So let's split these up a little bit better. So we can cut that one. Towns and cities. I'm gonna grab this, bold that, drop this down, put that in. So we need to make the Court of Roses, names and cities. The Arcane Deadlands is probably going to be a couple streams, and those are going to be like unhinged. Those are going to be ridiculous because that's just the way it's going to be. Because the Arcane Deadlands is going to be a fun place to DM and a terrifying place to play. Gaia's Cradle and the Wildwood need to be their own thing. And the Shadow's Hands. I need to know some about this, but I need to leave room there. It has to be vague enough for a player to run it. So I'm not going to really drill down that. Point buys for city names? No, we're just going to brainstorm it together. I don't want to gatekeep these that much. If that makes any sense. I don't want to lock people in and be like, oh, you've watched longer, so you get more influence over the campaign. I want it to be a very collaborative experience. What about the Thieves Guild, or is that all fleshed out? I do need to rename my Thieves Guilds. So we need organizations and factions. We need Thieves Guilds. We need merchant confederacies. We need... And honestly, those will probably stem from towns and cities. An Assassin's Guild might be kind of fun. I might leave that up to a player to create if we need one. Because assassins traditionally are going to be working from the south. Because they're going to have access to poisons. And would there be something of trying to rebuild the South? Yes and no. The way the South gets to rebuild is by winning the war. Because if they can get the North to stop the incursions, Gaia can then focus on cleansing the lands to the south. Right now, it's a slow process because she's also working on confusing and misdirecting the forces from the north, keeping them at bay, but also keeping the arcane powers from the south from incurring to the north. Because if they get access to that level of power, the war's over. It's done. Info brokers, those kind of fall somewhere between here, but I'm going to write that down because that's a good thing to think about. We need individuals in power. So these are the people that actually put that in there. And honestly, I've changed my mind again. This is a very loose. Part of the towns and cities stream and or streams is going to be who's in these places, who runs them, what kind of governing body is it? Is it a sheriff? Is it a small town? Is it a large village? Is it, a settlement? What are we dealing with? And that kind of stuff will come later. We'll get some name generators. We'll employ chat. We'll make things happen. But I think for now, we covered a lot more ground than I thought we were gonna in 3 hours, which is actually that's pretty good, because I did all of this in about 6 hours last night. So that was good. That was good. I learned a lot about the world. I hope you guys did too. And yeah, we will probably. Now let's make it more concrete. I'm gonna do another one of these tomorrow. Now that you guys kind of know, I'm not going to put the spoiler tags on everything. I just wanted you guys to be aware of, there was a thing that's going to happen. I'm going to have to talk about a thing. But now that that's over, because I had to discuss the ending of Ragnarok, which if you hadn't watched it, that would be kind of a bummer. So, we're going to be back tomorrow. I will let you guys know the time as soon as I know the time, because I'm going to have to figure this out and do a lot of thinking. We are playing D&D tomorrow night, so I won't be going too late. But we'll do probably another 2 or 3 hours tomorrow if I can come up with enough stuff to talk about. We're going to go until we hit a roadblock or I get tired or we run out of ideas. So, anywhoomst, I hope you guys had a fun time. If you did, I will be back here tomorrow. I will let you know. I'm going to shoot for, let's say, 1 p.m. MST. Okay? 1 p.m. MST. We'll be here, and we're going to work on one of these things. If I have another brain blast, we'll start there. If I don't, I'll see where you guys are at. But until then, auf Wiedersehen, my friends. Much love. Goodbye. Have a lovely rest of your evening, gang.